Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Subos, page 37, which, as we've established before, there is, according to Jewish law, under certain circumstances, a time in which a criminal who committed such a horrific crime that they will actually be sentenced to death. There's actually 4 different methods, and over here it discusses sayef, which literally means the sword, which is one of the ways that a person is killed. The question is exactly how does the court go about doing this? So it's actually derived, interestingly enough, from a situation where there was a murder and it was a homicide, and no one knows who the actual person that did the killing. So the Torah tells us in Deuteronomy that they actually will measure the person who died, and they will measure which city is that person's remains closest to. And they would actually have to do a certain ceremony of bringing an animal called an eglah, a rufa, and they would take this calf and they would bring it to a certain valley, and they would take a hatchet and kill it by the neck. But the way they would do it is they would kill the animal by the back of the neck. And this was the ceremony that was done as is explained in the Torah. Now, because it was by the neck, so too when we sentence a person to death with the sword, we will also kill them by the neck. And on this the Talmud asks, well, 1 second, if we're really comparing the two, why stop there? In fact, when it comes to the death penalty, we should do the exact same thing by using a hatchet and also by the back of the neck, which of course is not what is done. It is instead done by the throat in the front. The question is, why do we do it this way? And on this, we have an unbelievable answer the Talmud gives, quoting the famous words, "V'yahavta reacha kamocha," that you're supposed to love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. Now, who is this neighbor? It doesn't only mean your best friend. It's even referring to someone who is a criminal, and even someone who is been sentenced to death, that there's a verdict that this person committed, let's say, murder, and therefore he's going to be killed by the sword. On this, the Talmud says, how do we demonstrate our love to our fellow man? So on this, it says, Borah lo misa yafa, choose a proper death, which is an unbelievable thing. That first of all, v'yahavta re'acha kamocha, loving your neighbor, is even to murderers, even to criminals. Just because they committed a crime and they deserve to be killed does not mean that we should not show some level of empathy in the way that we do it. And therefore, even though it goes against the actual method of killing of this eglah rufa, we are not going to kill a person in that same way. Instead, we're going to do it in a more humane, quicker manner, by doing it by the front of the neck, which is again a fascinating concept, that when it comes to v'yahavta re'acha kamocha, we can't make exceptions and say, you know what, I know I'm supposed to love my fellow neighbor, but this guy's really a bad person. Is there anyone worse than this individual that is being sentenced to death, and yet the Torah says it does not make a difference? We still apply v'yahavta re'acha kamocha even to them. And if that is how we're supposed to treat even someone who is a convicted murderer, that we have to still in some way show sympathy and compassion and empathy, then certainly for everyone else.